Minister Gibbons, you've been to Gothenburg, you went to Portsmouth. What did you learn from the events, and how do you see that working in Bermuda?
Well, I think as I said earlier, it was, first of all, it was very exciting, but I think one of the things that was really interesting for me, and we had a number of other people there as well, was just getting a sense of the flow of the events, because there's a formula to how the World Series is done. So I think that was important in the first sense. As you probably got a feeling from Sam's comments earlier, Sam Hollis, Portsmouth was very different than Gothenburg, a much larger event spread out over quite a large area. They're expecting close to 500,000, I think, with the weather, and that was one of the things we learned. You can't control the weather. But it was very much a different scale than Bermuda. Gothenburg, which was in Sweden, much smaller, and I think one of the takeaways from that was it's really important to have as much of the event as you can sort of in one place. Gothenburg split up the event village from the actual sailing part, and I think that was a little bit difficult. They're about 20 minutes away from each other. So one of the things I think the organizers are trying to do here is to make sure that the event village on Front Street, all of the sort of moving parts are in the same area. I think it's also important to understand that we're catering both to locals and to visitors as well. And I think it's important to make sure both of those constituencies are sort of happy. What we saw was a very high standard of service and product in both places. And I think Bermuda really has to put its best foot forward here too. I think at the end of the day, the issue for Bermuda too, and I think we saw this in Portsmouth and Gothenburg, we need to have as much local flavor as possible. And I think you heard earlier that we're going to try and involve as much of the community. I think we have about 59 different vendors, Bermudian vendors. We're trying to get, it's open. Portsmouth there was an admission fee. Here we're trying to get the community involved. So I think all of those issues in terms of creating excitement and a real sense of involvement are sort of important as well. There are a lot of technical issues, but I think those probably can wait till another day.
Thank you, Minister. I was going to ask, one more question, and this is something that always interests me. Russell Coos, you've raced all kinds of boats. You've won all kinds of races. Compared to the monohull or even the old catamarans, what's the difference between those boats and the boats that are going to be racing here in October?
Well, I wish I was 25 years younger getting into these boats. Well, probably Dean Barker's a better person to explain the difference because he's actually out there doing it and I'm watching it these days. But I think things happen at fast pace. You don't get a lot of time to make decisions. Difficult boats to race, and I think that translates into a lot of lead changes. The racing that we've seen thus far, there's been a lot of lead changes, place changes, and it's pretty exciting to watch, I must say.
Okay, thanks. Now, what I suggest we do in the interest of time, what I'm going to ask you to do is just a couple of you line up behind the microphone. We'll take your questions, anybody that wants to answer a question, so we can move, and I don't want anybody that's bashful. So we'll start with the questions. Try and keep your question as short as you possibly can, and I'm going to try and get the panel to be as short as they possibly can in the answers, so we can get as many questions done in 20 minutes. Sir.
Mike, I think you and your committee have done a wonderful job. I have one suggestion. You have right behind you is a welcome home of the 17 America's Cup flag. And out on the street, there is no evidence whatsoever of where this event is. There was a couple of ads in the newspaper that were alerted the sailing community, but I tried to get a couple of school kids here. I was told that they had teacher functions that night. We need to have an event coordinator go there and get those schools on board, and we need to have something out on the street so people know where we are. It seems absolutely incredible that tonight the Bermuda government are sponsoring a meeting down at the library where we're talking about the future of the island, by John Cox, and there's lots of people that undoubtedly would like to be there. Somehow or other, we need a local event coordinator to hang these all out. The Gazette ran an article about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they asked people whether they were behind the America's Cup presentation. And it was the most disappointing article that I think I've ever read about America's Cup, because most of the people there didn't have any commitment to it. They didn't see any great benefit to personally or to Bermuda. So somehow or other, one of you has to take that on as a responsibility and get a sign like that out on the door so people know where the bloody thing is. Thank you.
Roger, ask, and you will receive. There is a huge, comprehensive branding plan, which is just being finalized. The material for the branding is en route, or will be on the final stages of it. In the next few days, in the next week or so, you're going to start to see. There was we were told by the experts, I guess I've been told this on many occasions, is don't peak too soon. And that is exactly what we're working to here. If we'd had it up too long, it would have been an anticlimax. You are now going to start to see the build, and that build just doesn't go to the World Series. It will start building across the island to 2017. So it's coming. And in terms of event coordination, there's a whole team on it. It's coming together, and you're going to start to see evidence of it very shortly.
Good evening. Thank you all very much for all your hard work to bring this event together. Question about the World Series, having watched the first two on television, it was very exciting. Hasn't been an explanation of the points and the scoring for the races. There is on Sunday a double points, but if you don't know which points you're actually going for, you don't know that which points are being doubled. And also there is talk of the World Series event standings going towards some placing in the cup itself, and doing some research, that hasn't been explained either. Has that been confirmed, and how is that going to work?
Super. Russell?
Yeah, so the points are accumulated. You're quite right. It's on the Saturday, the points are worth half of what they are on Sunday, so it's double points on Sunday. And that's really to give credit, as the teams get more time at each of the venues, they of course get, it rewards the teams that put it all together at the end. The total points, in other words, the points that each of in that brochure that you've got there, you've got the points for the cumulative points for the first two regattas.
Sorry, but
how do they earn the points, Russell?
Yeah, sorry. In a typical sailing race, you get 1 point for first, but these points are actually the highest point scorer wins. So how are the points awarded?
That's correct. Well, if you think about the general public, us sailors are used to a low point system where first place is in some cases, some point systems is 0. It's pretty hard for a lot of people to understand. Most people would say, well, you get more points for doing better. So we've constructed a point system where it's the most points is leading, and as I said, you can see in the brochure that the total standings of the teams as they stand today. And those points over the course of the Louis Vuitton America's Cup World Series add together such that for qualification the teams that win the America's Cup World Series, or the team that wins the America's Cup World Series, goes in with a 2-point advantage to the final qualifiers. The final qualification starts on May 26th of 2017 and finishes June 25th. The final qualification is worth 1 point per race, okay? Because that becomes a match race. Right now we've got a fleet race going on where all of the boats are racing at once. 2017, it's a match race, 1 point per race. So the winner goes in of the Louis Vuitton America's Cup World Series, goes into that series with a 2-point advantage, which is pretty significant because they race a double round robin In other words, the 6 teams race against each other, all of the other teams, scoring 1 point per race. And again, I'm repeating myself a lot now, the winner goes in with a 2-point advantage, so a 2-race advantage, if you like. Pretty significant. And then on top of that, because the defender is also racing in that series, what you could have had if the points didn't count for the defender could have effectively manipulated the results, could have influenced the results of the challenger qualification. Okay? So what they did was to guard against that. The winner of the Louis Vuitton America's Cup World Series and the qualifiers, the double round robin that the defender will be racing in, goes into the final match with a 1-point advantage. So, in other words, the defender can't afford to throw races because they don't want to go into the match with a 1-point disadvantage. Did that help explain it?
But am I right in saying, Russell, that the winner right now, the races going in the World Series, the winner on Saturday, the first day, gets 10 points.
Correct.
And on Sunday gets 20 points.
Correct.
And second gets
9.
9. Oh, I see, and it works down that way.
Yeah, down.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good afternoon. Question pertaining to the loading of passengers on tour boats. And also it seems to go through a meal time, so food will have to be loaded. I operate a couple of large boats, and normally it takes 2 or 3 truck loads of food and things of that nature to be loaded. Where am I going to find dock space along with the other government vessels? You're talking about ferries carrying 500. You're talking about boats over 50 feet. There's probably about 40 of those commercial boats, and I'm sure they're all chartered. They'll all have the venue, which will be food, which will require trucking, and you're mentioning that Front Street will be closed. Where do we go to pick up passengers? That's my question.
I haven't got the map up here. Peter, do you want to do this, or do you want me to do it? We haven't got the map up there, but there has, that's been recognized. And off Old Boys Point, there is an area that is specifically reserved for the pickup and dispatching of passengers. I'm not sure we got an answer to your food question yet, but it's a good question, and we can take it and work on it and make sure we get the answer.
Okay, on Old Boys Point, for instance, there's only one dock for a boat of my size. Right, the south side, if the tide is high, I can get there. If the tide is not, I have to use the east side, right? And that is for both of my vessels. So to think about it, there's 40-odd boats. How are we going to load?
I think they're great questions, and we've got a meeting planned for charter boat operators, and we'll have those answers by that time.
Yeah, sooner than later. We have people that are, trying to make arrangements with caterers, and it's all open-ended at the moment.
Yeah.
We need to fill this in.
We understand. We'll get them to you as soon as we can. Thanks. Oh, my dear. Good afternoon and good evening, Madame.
Good evening. Just a couple of comments. First of all, I think kudos to everybody up there for everything that everybody is doing for Bermuda. It's unfortunate, in my opinion, this is not representative of Bermuda as a whole and what we think about the upcoming event. It's the same people that do show up. However, there is support from many others who may not be in attendance, but they are cheering this on. Saying that, and as a Bermudian, details are very important, and you have mentioned details several times today. And I think that for a lot of the young people who are managing this event and supporting it, when details come up, we do have to address them. So, for example, I attended along with 35 to 40 other business people at a Corporation of Hamilton meeting, and it was indicated to us immediately that the Front Street would be closed effective Friday at 11 a.m. I note in the brochure tonight, it does suggest that it will be closed on Friday afternoon. If this is appearing in the newspapers tomorrow, we don't need to add any fuel so that people can find an excuse to criticize. So we need to be very, very clear about what the message is. And I have to say from previous experience, if you are going to close Front Street on that Friday, close it immediately. Do not suggest to people you have until 11 o'clock, then you have to move your vehicle. Because I can tell you from past experience, and that is through Harbor Nights, and I'm looking at individuals here who were very much involved in the organization of Harbor Nights, it was difficult getting people to remove vehicles. If you're going to close it on the Friday, please close it immediately, first thing in the morning. And my only last piece of advice is please get the message out to people, because people will complain one way or the other. We can't change that. But I think if we give them, we overload them. You've been giving a huge amount of big details, which is fantastic. And if you happen to be a sailor and you're into the technical, great. There's the little details that we need to get into the people who are going to be working that weekend, who need to know, okay, what do I have that I have to plan for, but at the same time, not making your job very aggravating and frustrating, but that I'm working with you. So if you can keep that in mind, and thank you again for all that you've done.
Thank you, Diane. I'm not sure there's a question anybody wants to go to that, but let me just take one comment that Peter made to me not long ago. And that is that everybody in this room, and everybody that listens to a television program, and everybody that believes in the America's Cup are walking advocates of the America's Cup. You all have a responsibility to go out and talk positive. The positives of this are extraordinary for Bermuda, and we need all of us, not just people on the stage, all of us to be talking about that and reinforcing how important it is for Bermuda. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, during the Bermuda Christmas boat parade, right, the commercial fishermen are allowed, duty-free commercial fishing boats are allowed to participate and to watch the event. Will that same courtesy be given to the America's Cup event on the 16th?
Well, they certainly watch it, but more than that,
Well, duty-free boats can, of course, not go out for pleasure. They are commercial work boats. But for the boat parade, we are given exemption.
you will need to apply to Marine and Ports, but we are making dispensation, so the answer is yes, subject to the conditions of Marine and Ports.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Leroy Simmons. As an educator, first of all, I must say that I am excited about the many activities that are going on for Bermuda's youth. I think that the America's Cup organization is doing a great job in that capacity. But I must also now give you full disclosure as president of the Bermuda Entertainment Union. There are several concerns that we have, and I will ask the questions, but I'm more than happy to perhaps email them, because I believe, Mike, you would probably be better suited to answer these questions as opposed to the panel or someone from the ACEA, okay? But first of all, we were concerned as to who is actually the promoter for the upcoming America's Jam, and is this a paid position?
What are you one at a time? That's a dirt harder question, without question. Peter?
Who's the promoter?
Mm-hmm.
So the promoter is, I guess, two things. There's, what's the name of the local firm that's running the? Okay.
Okay, that's interesting, because we had a conversation with Tony Brennan yesterday, who said he's not the promoter. Just
Tony Brown said he isn't the promoter.
Pardon?
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Okay. All right.
But let me just assure you that if
Sure.
we don't give a complete answer and you email it to me, you will get complete answer.
Yeah, okay. I can just, maybe best for me just to list off the questions.
Sure.
And then I can email.
And I'll ask
you.
the panel if they want to grab any of them as we go. Finish the questions, and then anyone that we want to grab now, we can.
Okay. Was this an opportunity put out to tender as a promoter for the America's Cup?
Keep going. Let's have them all.
Okay. If so, when and how? If not, why? Thirdly, is there an intention to pay the required traveler's dues to the Bermuda Entertainment Union for all of the overseas entertainers and support staff that are coming in for this event and others event events that are coming up. Okay. Fourthly, how many local acts are expected to be on stage during the time that the overseas entertainers would be on stage in Bermuda? The fifth question is, some of the local entertainers have expressed concern regarding remuneration negotiations. And are you prepared to disclose the budget for local entertainment? And finally, with reference to the economic impact, what are the expected benefits to local entertainers, promoters, and support staff?
That's it?
That's it.
Good. Does anybody want to grab any of those questions right now, or should we, Peter?
Honestly, my suggestion would be a meeting, not an email string back and forth. And then you get the right people in the room and have a discussion about it properly so that any issues can be raised. You can get a fulsome explanation for where we are and why we are there. I will say this, the concert on the Saturday night, at best, will be a break-even proposition. The whole point of it is to add a dynamic of entertainment so that when we have people come out for the day, that they have an opportunity to spend some time into the evening as a part of the whole process. And so this is not a sort of a money-spinning opportunity per se, but I think what I would recommend is let's get in a room with the right people and make sure that you get proper answers to your questions so that you can onward facilitate those in your role as representing that part of the entertainment group. That would be my suggestion.
And I'll give you a card before you leave.
All right, let me suggest that we make this happen sooner rather than later.
As everybody's suggesting, these are.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. With Front Street being closed for the event, it would be very wise for the panel to come up with a flow plan for traffic, seeing that we have a huge problem with traffic in Bermuda, as to how traffic is going to flow into Hamilton. Around Hamilton, are you making certain streets one way? Are you, if not, you are going to have a congestion like we have in St. George's when we have the walkabout. I mean, it's just going to be chaos. So it'd be wise to let people know in and out of Hamilton and how it's going to flow. So,
Minister, do you want to?
Sure. I think there's probably ongoing discussion with the corporation. This isn't the first time that Front Street's been closed off. I think there's a traffic pattern that'll probably put into place. But if your point is get it out there early, I think that's good advice.
Yeah, just good advice. Any other questions?
You know, you guys are doing a fantastic job all around, and really appreciate it. But the one thing about the America's Cup events is they are just events, and they go around the world, and they come back to Bermuda. But we have an opportunity here to turn this into a huge, ongoing, constant event. And what I'm saying is, I live in Boston, I'm a Bermudian, I want to promote the heck out of this. One of my questions to Coots is, how often are the boats going to be out on the water? I mean, training, practicing, going around the sound. Is it going to be every day? It will be every week. Question being, I can send people to Bermuda to come and watch the boats training. And now we're not just sending people down for a few weeks or a month. We're sending them out for the whole 2 years where they can come down, we can get them out on the water, we can show them around and participate and do things like that. So is it possible we can sort of build upon that kind of sort of 2-year event as opposed to just a month or two?
Amen. Sir Russell?
So thanks for the question. There's rules around when the teams can sail these boats, because the boats are all actually identical, and they in fact, in the interest of cost saving, to stop some of the wealthier teams turning up at venues months prior and training in the venue and gaining an advantage. There's rules around when the competitors can sail. So Friday is scheduled as practice, and then the race day is Saturday and Sunday. I guess one of the benefits of Bermuda hosting the America's Cup finals is that the teams such as Oracle Team USA or SoftBank Team Japan or Artemis Racing, those teams have chosen to base themselves here now, and people that want to go out and see those boats out there training and so forth, most days can go out and see those boats training on the Great Sound.
So Russell, could you just explain effectively the three boats? The boat that they're racing in the World Series, the sports or turbo boats, which Oracle and others will have, and then the final boat.
Yeah, well, there's been quite a lot of evolution with these boats. You know, when we started off, you can imagine, even going back to 2010, they're racing giant multi-hulls. The funny thing is, these small boats now would beat those giant multi-hulls. So, and the America's Cup community, the teams have now decided that the final boats they build for this one, and they are about to take a vote on this, that will be adopted for the future, and that there will only be one boat that will also be transportable around the world. So that rule for this time has been written such that those boats could be containerised, which is one of the key things, and you just simplify the whole thing and just have one boat. As it's been evolving, we started off with the AC-45s last time, racing in the Louis Vuitton America's Cup World Series, and they've evolved into a foiling boat now, meaning they put foils on the boats that lift them out of the water. They originally weren't designed like that. Also, the teams all of the teams now are planning or have already built test boats that they are out sailing in. So, for example, Oracle Team USA is out there sailing a test boat. Artemis Racing's been out there sailing their test boat. And they are actually more like the America's Cup boats. They're faster than the boats that will race here in October, and better equipped, but not as good as the final America's Cup boats that are around 50 feet that'll be racing in 2017.
So, to be clear to that question, the one design 45s used in the Louis Vuitton World Series will be here in October. From then right the way through to 2017, bar some gap periods, Oracle already have two of the turbo or sports boats, which are, Russell, I'm right in saying, much faster than the 45s.
They're wider, actually, and they've just got better, they're more sophisticated, if you like.
And
so they are much faster.
And they're using those boats to collect data, enable them to design the final 50-footer.
Yeah, and so the other teams, such as Bernews Racing, even the French have recently announced that they are building a test boat platform. Emirates Team New Zealand are building two of them. They all have some sort of way to supplement their design program for their final build in 2017.
So as of after the race, after the October, Oracle will have two test boats in the water. They'll be on sound racing that people will be able to see when they come to Bermuda. Artemis will have at least one test boat, same speed, hugely fast boats. Dean will have a boat as the beginning of next year, we'll have a boat in the water. And then over the winter, other boats will come in. We know from Bar, probably from Team France in late October and even into next year. So at any time in the Great Sound, there probably could, as we work towards this, be 4 or 5 of these test boats moving at extraordinary speed. And by the way, there is a safety portion that you need to be listening to Ralph's committee and all of that, because these boats, even when they're just being tested, are moving at huge speeds. And when you're going along in your open console thinking you're shooting across the water, and this boat comes up behind you and overtakes you without any engines, it is a humbling experience. It's happened to me. You need to be conscious of it. One of the big rules is do not change direction. They will see you. Don't start changing directions or getting cute. They're much faster than you are. Any other questions?
I'm not sure we did that justice in the sense that there's a lot of technical explanation about different kinds of boats and whatever. The fact of the matter is there's going to be a tremendous amount of activity over the next 2 years, and your instinct is spot on. Can we leverage that? Can we bring people to Bermuda to be part of that spectacle other than the month or 6 weeks in 2017? Absolutely. Now you also got to remember, it's kind of like saying to the pick your favorite NFL team, pick your favorite sport. Oh, I want to come to your spring training and watch you behind the scenes while you do the dirty work of getting to the point where you're doing this global sport. And so sometimes they might even say, we're going to sail at 10 o'clock today, we're going to sail at 2 o'clock this afternoon, whatever. And the hydraulic part of the hydraulic systems there's an issue and they spend 2 hours tinkering with it because they're learning at the same time. So I think it's all about, I think people who are entrepreneurially minded, including the on-water charter boats and so on, will make hay from this if they have an instinct to do so. But this is also, individuals have to step up and see those opportunities and go for it, because these guys are really running secret programs out in public. And so they're trying to manage the competitive dynamics as well and so on. So I don't see that as something we would put on as a tourism thing per se, but is it a phenomenal backdrop for people to come to Bermuda and be able to experience that? Absolutely. And I think that should be part of the dynamic going forward.
Yeah, and one of the other things to add, it's very funny to watch. You get Oracle, and as we have had, the test boats of Oracle and Artemis out in the Sound, and they start off miles that are a mile or so apart. It doesn't take long for those two boats to be racing. They just cannot stay away with it. So you get into a competitive situation very quickly. Does anybody have any other questions? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to sincerely thank you. Yes, sir? I think what was said was if the stars are aligned, in other words, if the wind is at a certain distance and whatever, there is a possibility that there could be a race or races in Hamilton Harbour. What are the odds, Russell?
Clearly we wouldn't want to compromise the integrity of the racing. That's the key, really. So we'd only ever consider doing that if the wind direction was aligned perfectly and the wind was light enough, because these boats are so fast, that we could set a proper course inside that harbour. So realistically it would have to be an easterly or westerly wind direction, and it'd have to be a relatively light wind for us to even contemplate doing that. Okay, I want to sincerely thank you all for being here, some of you again. Please keep on top of it. We'll keep putting information out, and feel free to call us or ask for more information. Thank you again.